Let's bring into the conversation NBC News and MSNBC political analyst, former member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, Claire McCaskill. NBC News national affairs analyst John Heilemann is here with us for the fourth hour, as well as former chief policy advisor for Mitt Romney's 2012 presidential campaign, Lanhee Chen. Good to have you all on board this hour.
John Heilemann, I said earlier today that if Democrats want to run against House Republicans, all they need to do is use the words of House Republicans. Whether you're talking about Chip Roy, who's saying we've done nothing here, whether you talk about the chair of the GOP Intel Committee saying that these people just chew up and absorb Russian propaganda and spit it back out. Or we could take what Dan Crenshaw said, mocking his own party members, just saying the quiet part out loud that they want Russia to win in the war against Ukraine. Here's what he said yesterday on Capitol Hill.
I guess their reasoning is they want Russia to win so badly that they want to oust the speaker over it. I mean, it's a strange position to take. I think I think they want to be in the minority too. I think that's an obvious reality.
It gets funnier.
It's so understated, but he goes, they want Russia to win so badly, and he goes, that's a strange position to take. So what we've been saying here, very strange that you have backbenchers from rural districts that are spewing Russian propaganda points. Kind of hard to explain that to the general electorate in the fall campaigns, but that's where we are.
Yeah, well, I mean, so one more thing, Joe, that just comes down to the simple but disturbing reality, which is that the Republican Party's become the party of Trump. And so, I mean, it's baffling at the level of political logic. And we've talked about this time and time again, because many of the positions that Donald Trump advocates and forces on the Republican caucus in the House are positions that are politically toxic. They may end up being positions that are politically toxic to Donald Trump too, but they're certainly politically toxic to Republican members of the House who are in marginal swing districts. But the Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the world and the Matt Gaetzes of the world are enthralled to Donald Trump. So Trump says what to do, they follow his lead, and you end up with situations where more rational Republicans like Dan Crenshaw are stunned. And really the quiet part out loud there is, the truth of it is, on some basic level, a lot of these members do in fact prefer to be in the minority than in the majority. They are much more comfortable in a position of opposition than they are in a position of having to govern anything. And I think some of them think they want to be in the majority, but they don't really want to be in the majority, or else they would be doing things that are more sensible politically. And you're right, man. Let's string together every comment like Crenshaw's. If you are the Democrat, you got to be, if you're a strategist on the Democratic side, you got to say we have a lot of fodder here to work with, taking Republicans' words and using them against other Republicans.
They want Russia to win. That's what he said. And again, you've got chairman, the most powerful chairman on the Hill when it comes to foreign policy, saying Republican members are parroting Russian propaganda points. They're saying it, not the New York Times editorial page or MSNBC primetime. They're saying it.
Yeah. You think of what Ukraine is doing for our safety and for the safety of the world. Yeah. The Wall Street Journal editorial board has a new piece this morning entitled Mike Johnson Makes His Case on Ukraine, and it reads in part, quote, Mr. Johnson deserves credit for his show of conviction, which represents the best of the GOP in the tradition of Ronald Reagan. The Republican malcontents are shouting about supposed betrayal, that Mr. Johnson should focus on the crisis at the southern border, but they know he'd pass border measures in a heartbeat if he had the votes in the House. The options now are to consign Ukraine to defeat or try and hold the line against Mr. Putin, and the latter is still possible, even after months of Washington dithering. Mr. Johnson's behavior is called leadership, and the GOP would be more popular and better able to govern if more of its members showed such mettle themselves or had more respect for those who demonstrated. Claire McCaskill, Mike John, do you agree with this piece in the Wall Street Journal And Mike Johnson, is he indeed showing leadership?
Yeah, it's taken him a while. I mean, this has been a slow start. I think he was in over his head. I think he was very indecisive, very uncomfortable leading, very uncomfortable confronting the crazy caucus, which has been driving this clown car now for a while. But keep in mind, the people that are doing this are in very safe districts. And they have one simple equation. If we are slavishly loyal to Donald Trump, who definitely wants Russia to win, and if we do performance politics, if we somehow manage to snag a headline, to get time on Morning Joe, to get time in all of these different outlets, then we raise more money. It's money. It's clicks for cash. And that's the new model for these folks that are on the fringes. And it is very unhealthy for our democracy. I applaud Mike Johnson for finally getting his act together. And I do think all these bills will pass, although I do think the numbers will be different. I think you'll see some Democrats fall away on the aid for Israel. And I think you'll see, frankly, some Republicans fall away on the aid to Ukraine because of Donald Trump loving Putin.
Well, which is fascinating that you actually have the party of Ronald Reagan, the former party of Ronald Reagan, betraying Ukraine as much as they are. But Lonnie, you look at what this Republican House has done, and whether it's betraying Ukraine, turning their back on Israel funding, betraying Taiwan, sending a horrible message to President Xi, again, as Mike McCall and other Republicans have said in leadership positions, and FISA. Donald Trump doesn't like FISA, so they tried to get in the way of continuing the FISA program, despite the fact they know that's how we stop foreign terrorists. But it does look like Mike Johnson, as the Wall Street Journal editorial page says, looks like Mike Johnson has realized you can't negotiate with these people. You got to run them over.
Well, I think Mike Johnson's made the decision that he's going to govern, and I think it's a very admirable decision. Now, the question going forward, of course, is what does this mean for the next several debates after this? You mentioned FISA, Joe. That's a great question. What's going to happen on that? They'll be able, hopefully, to get aid for Ukraine and Israel and Taiwan across the finish line, almost in a form of coalition government in terms of what we're seeing now. But what comes next? Are they going to be able to govern? I hope so. I think that in some ways this is a promising trend in terms of bringing parties together to cooperate on issues where there is bipartisan consensus. We know that foreign aid is more than about just giving money to other countries. It's about advancing American interests by helping our friends and allies around the world. That's why it's so important. You go beyond that, though, to questions around public policy in the domestic sphere and the economic sphere. Are there other areas where we can see things get done between now and an election? Now, it's tough. In an election year, it's always tough. But I think we have to take a look at this trend and really recognize how unique of a moment it is. We've been stuck in this horrible political paralysis. And now we have a decision from a Republican speaker to say, you know what, I'm going to set aside what might be my future career as speaker, and I'm going to work with Democrats to get this done. And that's admirable.
And, Claire, it's one thing being a backbencher. It's another thing being on a committee like you were on, the Armed Services Committee in the Senate, where you get intel briefings. And when you get the first intel briefing, when Mike Johnson gets a first intel briefing on what FISA's really about instead of what Donald Trump says it's about, you suddenly realize that terrorist threats, whether it's from ISIS or Al-Qaeda or another foreign terrorist group, our best shot of stopping those are through things like FISA.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize, we always talk about the intelligence community like it's some kind of big group of folks somewhere. And I think people think of spy movies and stuff. The vast majority of the people in the Intelligence Committee are either veterans or active military. They are really hardworking, smart patriots that are trying to keep our country safe. And it is just bizarre to me. If you got Donald Trump right now and put a microphone in front of his face and tried to hold him to an answer on this, what is FISA? He doesn't know. He doesn't even know what it is. He has no idea. I mean, this guy, I mean, you know, the Republicans used to go to the White House when I was in the Senate. They'd come back and they'd have a health care discussion. The Republicans would say, he has no idea what Obamacare even is, what the Affordable Care Act even is. So he's just doing this. He's parroting this. Yes, we need to be careful about oversight in the intelligence community. You don't want it to run amok and violate Americans' rights. But the surest path to our country being under attack is to actually defang our intelligence community. And that's what Donald Trump's trying to do.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.